Welcome to Speak Forward English, where we help you master the language with confidence.
Hey, Jack! Oh my gosh, it is so good to see you today. How are you doing?
Anna, hey, I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for asking. I'm just, feeling great today. The sun is out, the coffee is good. Life is just, I don't know, it feels pretty easy right now, honestly.
Oh, that is such a perfect segue into what we're going to be talking about today, actually. Because today, you guys, we are diving into the topic, and I love this topic so much. Life is easy. Yes, you heard that right. Life is easy.
And I know. Some of you listening right now are probably going, what? No, it's not. And I totally get that reaction. I really do. But just stay with us, okay? Because we're going to break this down in a way that I think is going to really open your mind.
Exactly. And before we jump in, we just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has been listening and supporting this channel. It genuinely means the world to us. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for your daily English listening practice. We post new conversations every single day to help you sound more natural, more fluent, and just more confident in your everyday English.
Yes, please subscribe. It's free, it takes literally 2 seconds, and it will genuinely help your English so much. Okay, so life is easy. Anna, where do you even want to start with this?
I want to start with what I think is the core idea, right? Because when people hear life is easy, they immediately think that means life has no problems, like no struggles, no hard days, no bills, no traffic, no arguments with your partner, none of that stuff. And that's not what we mean at all.
Right. That's such an important distinction because life absolutely has challenges. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, everything is sunshine and rainbows all the time. That would just be dishonest. But I think the idea is more about your relationship with those challenges, how you perceive them, how you respond to them.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's about perception. It's about mindset. And I want to give a really simple example right off the bat to kind of anchor this whole conversation. So, okay, think about riding a bike, right? The first time you ever got on a bike as a kid, was it easy?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I fell off so many times. I remember my dad was trying to teach me, and I just kept crashing, hitting the grass, hitting the pavement. I had scraped knees for like 2 weeks straight.
Same. And at that point, if someone said to little Jack, hey, riding a bike is easy, you would have looked at them like they had 3 heads.
Oh, 100%. I would have said easy for who? Because it is definitely not easy for me right now.
But fast forward, how do you ride a bike now?
I don't even think about it. Like, I genuinely could probably have a conversation, look around, not hold the handlebars. I wouldn't recommend that, but the point is it's completely automatic. It's effortless.
Exactly. And that is such a perfect illustration of what we mean when we say life is easy. Because the bike didn't change, the road didn't change, the physics of balancing on 2 wheels did not change. What changed was you, your skill, your familiarity, your comfort level with the activity.
That's so true. And I think that applies to almost everything in life, right? Like, think about your first day at a new job. Do you remember yours, Anna? Like, how did that feel?
Oh my goodness. Stressful does not even begin to cover it. I remember my first real job out of college, and I was a nervous wreck. I didn't know where the bathroom was. I didn't know what to call my boss. I didn't know the software they used. I didn't know anyone's name. I was terrified of saying something wrong in meetings. Like, everything felt so overwhelming and so hard.
Yes. And now for you, or for anyone who's been at their job for a few years, all of those things that felt so scary and so difficult, they're just routine. They're just Tuesday.
Completely. And I think this is the core of the life is easy philosophy, right? It's that most things that feel hard in life feel hard because they're new, or because we're afraid of failing, or because we haven't given ourselves enough time and practice. But with the right approach, with patience, with consistency, with the right attitude, almost everything becomes manageable. Almost everything becomes, well, easier.
I love that framing. And I want to add something to that too, because I think there's another layer here that's really important. And it's this idea of, how do I put this? It's the idea that we often make life harder than it needs to be ourselves. Like, we are sometimes our own biggest obstacle.
Oh, yes. Say more about that because I think that is so real and so relatable.
Okay, so here's an example. Let's say you need to have a difficult conversation with a friend, right? Like maybe they said something that hurt your feelings and you need to address it. Now, a lot of people, and I've definitely been guilty of this, will spend days, sometimes weeks, building this conversation up in their head, like they're playing out every possible scenario. What if they get mad? What if they cry? What if they deny it? What if they say something worse? What if this ruins the friendship? Like by the time you actually sit down to have that conversation, you've already had it about 400 times in your imagination and you are exhausted.
Yes. Oh, I feel so personally attacked right now. I literally did this last month. I had to tell a friend that I couldn't make it to their birthday party, and I spent like 3 days anxious about it when the actual conversation took maybe 5 minutes, and she was completely fine about it.
See? And that's the thing. The actual conversation, 5 minutes, totally fine. But the mental and emotional energy spent leading up to it, days. And that's where the life is hard feeling often comes from. Not from the thing itself, but from all the extra mental weight we pile on top of it.
That is such a good point. It reminds me of this concept that I read about a while ago. I think it was in a psychology book, and it talked about the difference between pain and suffering. So the idea is that pain is the actual, real, unavoidable discomfort of something difficult. Like, okay, you have to do your taxes. That's a bit of a pain. It takes time, it's a little tedious. That's real. But suffering is the story we tell ourselves about it. Like, I hate doing taxes. This is the worst. Why does this have to be so complicated? The government is out to get me. This ruins my whole weekend. Like, that's the suffering layer. And that's optional.
Wow, yeah, that is a really powerful distinction. Pain versus suffering. Because, life will have pain. That's just true. Things will go wrong. Unexpected things will happen. You'll get sick. You'll lose things you love. Plans will fall through. That's just the texture of life. But the suffering, the catastrophizing, the ruminating, the worst-case scenario spiral, a lot of that is something we're adding on top.
Right. And when you start to notice that and gently step back from it, even just a little bit, life starts to feel a lot more manageable, a lot lighter.
Which brings us back to the title, Life is Easy. Or at least it can be easier than we're making it.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about some more practical day-to-day examples, because I don't want this to feel too abstract or philosophical. I want people to really see this in their actual lives.
Good idea. Okay, let's talk about health, because I feel like health and fitness is one of those areas where people really do make things more complicated than they need to be.
Oh, totally. This is a big one.
So, I have a friend, I won't say any names, but this person has been trying to get healthy for years. And every time they decide to get serious about it, they go completely all in. They buy all the supplements, they sign up for the most intense program, they cut out basically every food they enjoy overnight, they're trying to work out 6 days a week from zero, and then, surprise, surprise, within 2 weeks, they burn out and quit.
Oh, I know this person. I feel like everyone knows this person. And it's not a discipline problem, right? It's not a motivation problem. It's that they made the whole thing way too hard right from the start.
Exactly. And what actually works, and there's so much research behind this, is starting small, embarrassingly small. Go for a 10-minute walk every day. That's it. Just 10 minutes. Don't overthink it. Don't buy anything. Don't change your diet yet. Just 10 minutes of walking.
And that feels almost too easy, right? Like people hear that and they go, that's not going to do anything. But here's the magic of it. When you commit to something small and you actually do it consistently, 2 things happen. One, you start to see and feel small results, which is motivating. And two, maybe more importantly, you build an identity. You become someone who exercises. And once you're that person, adding more feels natural instead of forced.
The identity piece is so huge. I love that you brought that up because I think so many people think about habits and goals in terms of outcomes, like I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to run a marathon. And those are fine goals. But the shift that actually makes change sustainable is when you start thinking in terms of who you want to become rather than what you want to achieve.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. So let's say you want to write a book. Okay, if your goal is just write a book, every day that you sit down to write, you're measuring yourself against this huge, distant outcome, and it can feel discouraging. Like you write 500 words and you look at how far you have to go, and it just feels overwhelming. But if instead your identity is, I am a writer, then every single day you just do what writers do, which is write. Even if it's just a paragraph, even if it's bad. Because writers write, that's what you do. And suddenly the daily action feels natural and easy because it's just who you are.
I love that so much. And I think it connects to something I believe really strongly, which is that life becomes easier when you stop fighting against it and start flowing with it. Like, there's this metaphor that I use in my head sometimes of imagine you're swimming in a river, right? And you can swim against the current, which is exhausting, and you barely move forward. Or you can find a way to work with the current, use the natural flow, and you get where you're going with so much less effort.
That's a beautiful metaphor. And I think, like, in practice, that means choosing the path of least resistance more often. Not in a lazy way, not in a I'm going to avoid all challenges way, but in a I'm going to work smarter, not just harder way.
Yes, working smarter. Let's talk about that for a second, because I think it applies so much to daily productivity and just getting things done. Because I think a lot of people feel like life is hard because they feel like they're always behind, always busy, always overwhelmed. Does that resonate with you?
Oh, completely. I used to feel that way all the time. Like the to-do list is never ending, your email inbox is a disaster, you feel like you're running from one thing to the next, and at the end of the day, you're exhausted, but you look back and you can't even really identify what you actually accomplished.
Exactly. So much busyness, but not necessarily a lot of meaningful productivity. And one of the things that helped me personally, and I think this is such a life is easy kind of insight, is the realization that not everything on your to-do list matters equally, not even close. There are maybe 2 or 3 things on any given day that actually move the needle in your life, in your work, in your relationships. And then there are 30 other things that feel urgent but are actually not that important.
The old 20% rule, right? Like 20% of your actions generate 80% of your results.
Exactly, yes. And when you start making choices based on that, when you give yourself permission to focus on the 2 or 3 things that truly matter and let go of or delay the rest, everything feels more manageable because you're not trying to do everything. You're doing the right things.
And I think that applies to relationships too, not just work. I've found that a lot of the stress and difficulty people experience in their relationships comes from this sense of trying to maintain too many connections at a surface level rather than investing deeply in a few.
Ooh, say more about that.
So, social media has made this a really interesting challenge, right? Because now we have hundreds or even thousands of connections, and there's this pressure to keep up with all of them, to respond to everyone, to stay relevant to everyone, and it's exhausting. It creates this shallow, wide social life rather than a deep, meaningful one. But actually, research on happiness, and there's this famous Harvard study that followed people for 80 years, consistently shows that the quality of your close relationships is the single biggest predictor of happiness and even longevity, not the quantity, quality.
That's so powerful and so counterintuitive in a world that kind of trains us to think more is better. More followers, more friends, more connections, when actually what fills you up is depth, not breadth.
Exactly. And here's a really simple life is easy example for that. Instead of trying to text 15 people every week to stay in touch, which feels like a chore and honestly doesn't build that much connection, what if you just called one friend, one real conversation per week, like a real talk? 30 minutes, no distraction, actually listening and sharing.
That is so doable, and yet it would probably have a bigger impact on your sense of connection and belonging than any amount of scroll and react social media engagement.
100%. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit because I think we need to talk about the mindset piece more directly. Because I think everything we've talked about so far kind of circles back to the way we think. And I believe, and I know this might sound a bit bold, but I genuinely believe that the biggest factor in whether life feels easy or hard is not your circumstances, it's your mindset.
I agree with that. And I know some people push back on that idea, like, oh, that's easy to say if you've had it easy. And I hear that. I don't want to dismiss the very real challenges that some people face that are genuinely much harder than others face.
Yes, oh, absolutely. Tell our listeners about him, though, because not everyone may know who he is.
So Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. He survived multiple Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz. He lost his wife, his parents, nearly everyone he loved, and he endured conditions that are almost unimaginable to most of us. And his insight, which he later turned into a whole school of therapy called logotherapy, was that even in those circumstances, no one could take away his inner freedom, his freedom to choose how he responded to what was happening to him. And he observed that the prisoners who seemed to survive best psychologically were the ones who were able to find meaning even in their suffering.
Yeah, every time I hear that, it kind of stops me in my tracks. Because if someone in that situation can find a way to maintain inner peace and meaning, then, what's my excuse when I'm stressed about traffic or a difficult email?
Right? And again, I want to be careful not to trivialize real pain and real difficulty. But the message is genuinely hopeful, which is that there is always something, no matter how small, that you have agency over. And focusing on that, focusing on what you can control, is one of the most powerful ways to make life feel more manageable.
Let's talk about that, the control piece, because I think that's another massive one. One of the fastest ways to make life feel overwhelming is to spend all your energy worrying about things you have zero control over.
Oh, yes. This is the Stoic philosophy, right? Like the ancient Stoics, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, they were all about this idea of the dichotomy of control. Basically, the idea is this. There are things within your control. Your thoughts, your attitudes, your actions, your responses, and there are things outside your control. Other people's behavior, the weather, the economy, what happened in the past. And the Stoics said very simply that the path to peace is to pour your energy into what you can control and genuinely let go of what you can't.
And it sounds simple when you say it out loud, but oh my goodness, it is so hard to actually practice.
It is. It really is. Because our brains we're wired to worry. There's a reason for that from an evolutionary standpoint. Worrying about potential threats kept our ancestors alive. But in modern life, that same instinct often just keeps us up at night worrying about things that may never happen and that we can't change anyway.
So true. And here's a really concrete example of this in everyday life. Let's say you send an important email to your boss, like maybe you proposed a new idea or you asked for a raise, and then you just wait. And that waiting period can be absolute torture for some people. The mental energy spent analyzing what they might be thinking, imagining all the ways it might go wrong, refreshing your inbox every 5 minutes. That is exhausting.
So relatable. I've done this so many times.
But once you've sent bad email, you have done